Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something special. Session 12 of the Law of One. It's often called the Law of Wisdom, and you can really see why.
Absolutely. If you're looking for insights, this session is just packed. It covers so much ground.
It really does. We're talking about potential new members for the group back then, these Orion chariots.
Right, the nature of those craft, and then the Confederation's efforts, like the planetary quarantine they maintain.
And the influences, too, right? Orion versus Confederation, plus Wanderers, who they are, why they're here.
And even healing. It all connects in, well, a really beautiful way. It's got those aha moments scattered throughout.
Definitely looking forward to unpacking those. So let's jump right in. The first question, it's about people wanting to join the circle.
Exactly. The questioner asks about Henry Puharich and George Hunt Williamson, Michel Dobrnovich. Could they join?
And what was Ra's take on that?
Well, Ross said essentially not right now. They weren't properly attuned at that moment.
Not attuned. What did that mean in this context?
Ra pointed to vibrational distortions. Basically, it came down to recent busyness. Not enough quiet time, not enough space for contemplation.
Ah, okay. So like their inner state wasn't quite aligned for that specific kind of work.
Precisely. It highlights that it's not just about wanting to do it, there's an energetic requirement.
Makes sense. Did Ras suggest how they could get attuned?
Yeah, something quite simple, actually. Just brief daily contemplation. That little bit of inner quiet could make the difference.
It really underlines the power of consistent practice, doesn't it? Even just a little bit each day.
It does, and Ra contrasts that with a current group explaining why they were effective.
Right. What made them a good channel?
Well, things like their daily contact with Carla, the instrument, plus their regular meditation periods, and just their, personal inclination towards contemplation anyway.
So it was a combination of factors creating that right environment.
Exactly. That sustained focus, both individually and as a group, it built that receptivity.
Okay, fascinating stuff. Let's shift gears then to the Orion chariots. That term itself is pretty evocative.
It is. The questioner asks for a description, and Ra immediately points out that chariot is, well, a human term linked to warfare.
Right, puts a certain spin on it from the start. So what did they actually look like, according to Ra?
Ra described a few types. There was an elongated, sort of ovoid shape, metallic but darker than silver when lit up, and red or fiery when not.
Okay, ovoid, metallic.
Yeah.
What else?
Also smaller discs, maybe 12 feet across, and then these boxy shapes about 40 feet per side.
Quite a variety.
But here's the really mind-bending part. Ra mentioned some craft could actually change shape just through thought control.
Wow. Shape-shifting ships controlled by thought. That's out there.
Isn't it? Ra linked it to the different levels of understanding within the various Orion complexes, and apparently they didn't share this tech info much amongst themselves, leading to all this variety.
So consciousness isn't separate from the technology, it's integral to how it works.
Exactly. It really challenges our usual mechanical view of how things operate,
It definitely does. Okay, so if Orion has these crafts, what about the Confederation? The next question asks about their efforts to, well, stop them.
Right. The questioner wants to know what the Confederation does about Orion craft. Ra confirms they make every effort to quarantine the planet.
Quarantine the planet. How did that work?
It's maintained by a network of guardians. Ra uses an analogy like patrols. It's diligent, but not, totally airtight. Entities can sometimes get through.
So there are ways through the net. What allows an Orion group to bypass this quarantine?
This is a really key point about the Law of One. Ra says penetration happens if a request is made in light or love.
Wait, a request from Orion? In light and love? How does that work if they're service to self oriented?
That's the paradox, isn't it? It seems to imply that even service to self entities operate within the framework of the one creator. Maybe it's a manipulation of the vibration, or perhaps a recognition, however slight, of that unity that the law necessitates the guardians acquiesce to. It's not just a simple force field.
Huh. That's complex. It's more about adhering to universal principles than just blocking entry.
Exactly. It's operating on a fundamental level of cosmic law.
So the questioner tries to clarify this request thing, right? Like who makes it?
Yes, and Ray asks for clarification back, so the questioner rephrases. How does the Confederation actually stop them? What are the actions involved?
Okay, so what are the actions?
Ray explains it happens at the level of light form or light body being. These guardians are essentially sweeping Earth's energy fields.
Sweeping the fields. Okay. And when they find someone approaching?
They hail the entity in the name of the one creator, and they basically bathe the entity in love and light.
Hailing them. with love and light. That sounds more welcoming than stopping them. How does that work as a deterrent?
Well, according to Ra, it's the power of the law of one itself, combined with free will. When an entity is met with that vibration, that reminder of the one creator, they freely choose to obey the quarantine. It's an appeal to their own true nature, essentially.
So it's not forced compliance, it's recognition of the truth.
That seems to be the idea. Compliance through resonance with the law itself.
Okay, but what if? What if an entity doesn't choose to obey? What happens then? Surely there's a consequence.
That's the next logical question, yeah. Ra gives this really strong analogy. Trying to push through after being hailed like that, it's like walking into a solid brick wall.
A solid brick wall. So
Oh.
it's impossible.
Energetically impossible, yes. Ra says the vibratory level of those guardians and the love light net they project makes it inconceivable for an entity at that boundary level to violate the law in that way.
So no big space battles or anything.
No confrontation needed. The system itself prevents it. Penetration only happens through those rare windows or distortions in space-time. Unpredictable openings.
Ah, those windows again. Does Roy connect that to anything we might recognize? Like UFO flaps?
He does. The questioner specifically asks about things like the 1973 flap, and Ra confirms, yeah, that's correct. Those surges in sightings can be chalked up to these temporary windows opening up.
Interesting. Provides a different lens for those events.
Right.
So if Orion gets through sometimes, does that mean most UFOs people see are from them?
The questioner asks exactly that. Ra says many are from Orion, but not all. It's more nuanced.
Okay, so what else is out there?
Well, Orion sends messages, right, telepathically. If they reach someone oriented to serving others, they kind of twist the message, make it sound acceptable, but maybe warn about doom and gloom to neutralize them.
Deceptive.
Yeah, but if they contact someone already service to self, they just give them the philosophy straight. No need to lie.
Makes sense. And the Confederation, are they visible too?
Ra mentions positive thought forms projected by the Confederation. And importantly, Ra also reminds them that some sightings are just, misinterpretations of our own secret military attack.
Right, so it's a mix. Orion craft, Confederation thought forms, maybe some government stuff.
Exactly, not just one source.
Okay. The questioner then gets specific again, asking about who contacted Henry Poolerage back in '72 in Israel.
And interestingly, Ra declines to answer that one directly.
Really?
Well-
Why not? He answered about the group's 1962 contact later.
Ra's reasoning was about protecting Puhurich's own future discernment. Interfering could distort his path of figuring things out for himself from within his all self.
Ah, the free will directive again. Don't interfere with the learning process.
Precisely. It emphasizes relying on your own inner compass.
But then, like you said, he does answer about the group's own contact from 1962.
Yes. When asked who contacted them then, Ra clearly states it was the Confederation.
And did the Confederation use a craft that time?
No. Ra clarifies it wasn't a physical craft, but a thought form.
So different methods. Telepathy, thought forms, maybe craft sometimes. Depends on the situation.
Seems that way. Different tools for different purposes.
Okay, moving on from craft.
Yeah.
What about the information Orion provides? Assuming it's not all technical specs.
Right, the questioner picks up on this, suggesting telepathic communication, which Ra confirms. Orion's goal is to spread their version of the Law of One.
Their version being?
The Law of One, but with the big distortion, service to self.
Okay, the negative polarity path. How do they teach that?
For more advanced groups they contact, they actually provide rituals and exercises. Things get written down similar to how service to others groups might receive and record guidance.
And the core philosophy they push.
It's all about manipulation, teaching people how to manipulate others so that those others serve them. The idea is to get people hooked on the feeling of being served, orient them toward service to self, and then teach them to manipulate others in turn. It's a cycle.
Wow, that's a pretty clear picture of the negative path strategy. The questioner then asks if this is basically where black magic comes from.
Yeah, it's a direct question. Ra gives a nuanced answer, sort of a yes and no.
No.
Yes, in the sense that Orion definitely helps and guides individuals who are already leaning towards service to self. But no, in the sense that those individuals would probably find that path anyway. There are plenty of negatively oriented teachers on the inner planes, Ross says. Orion just gives them a boost, maybe makes it more organized.
So they amplify it, but they didn't invent negativity itself.
Pretty much. It resonates with an existing choice.
Okay. Now this leads to a really important practical question. Can a channel, someone receiving information, accidentally tap into both the Confederation and Orion? maybe get confused.
Ra confirms that's entirely possible for what he calls an untuned channel, someone who isn't clearly focused or vibrationally aligned.
And what happens then? How does the information get mixed?
It depends on the channel's basic orientation. If they're fundamentally service to others, but maybe, looking for proof or getting doubtful, Orion can jump in.
And give them?
Messages of doom, fear, catastrophe,
Yeah.
lies, basically, designed to shut the channel down, make them ineffective.
That sounds dangerous for someone genuinely trying to help.
Very much so. Ra notes many contacts got confused and became self-destructive because of this. On the flip side, if the channel is already leaning towards service to self...
Orion just tells them the truth, their truth.
Exactly. No need for lies then. They just give them the straight service to self philosophy. It really highlights how crucial inner clarity and tuning are for anyone doing this kind of work.
Absolutely vital. Okay, let's talk about the Orion Crusaders themselves. What density are they mostly from?
The questioner asks this, and Ra confirms the majority are fourth density.
Fourth density.
Yeah.
Isn't that supposed to be the density of love and understanding? It seems strange for service to self entities.
It does initially, but it shows that density progression isn't automatic enlightenment, right? Fourth density focuses on love, yes, but that love can still be directed primarily inward towards the self. Orion represents that polarization within fourth density.
Okay, that makes sense. And are these fourth density beings normally invisible to us here in third density?
Ra clarifies that. It's not that they're inherently invisible, it's that they choose not to be visible most of the time.
Why? Is it hard for them?
Yes. Ra says manifesting visibly in third density requires concentration on our difficult vibrational complex. It takes effort. It's not their natural state.
Got it. So they prefer to stay unseen. Now, a big question. Are any individuals from the Confederation or Orion actually living here on Earth right now, like walking among us, maybe in important positions?
That's a huge question. Ra's answer is pretty definitive. No, not at this time. No entities from either group are incarnate and living ordinary lives among us.
Okay, that's clear. But Ra does say Orion uses other means to influence things here, right?
Yes. He says they use two types of entities to do their bidding, thought forms, which we've discussed, and something called robots.
Robots, like literal machines. What did Ra say about them?
Not much detail, actually, just that a robot can look like any other being. It's a construct, artificial.
Okay, so are these robots what people sometimes call the Men in Black? That whole phenomenon?
Yeah. The questioner asks exactly that, and Ra says, incorrect. The robots are not the Men in Black.
Okay, so if they're not the robots,
Mm-hmm.
who are the Men in Black then?
Ra describes them as a type of thought form entity, but they have some degree of beingness to them, and they're given specific physical characteristics.
So more substantial than just a fleeting thought.
Apparently so. Their key feature, though, is they don't have a true third density vibration, which lets them materialize and dematerialize seemingly at will.
And they are used by Orion.
Ra confirms that, yes, they are utilized by the Orion Crusader.
Fascinating. Kind of creepy, too. The questioner then asks something practical, maybe. Could you, like, grab one, physically restrain a Man in Black?
Yeah, like stick one in a closet. Ra's answer depends on what type you encountered.
Right. Robot versus thought form.
Exactly. If it was one of the robot constructs, Ra says you might be able to hold it briefly, but even they have ways to disappear, controlled remotely. But if it's a thought form, Man in Black...
No chance.
Nope. Cannot be grappled with. Too insubstantial, essentially.
Yeah, makes sense. This leads to a deeper question, though, about the ethics. Would trying to grab one, even if you could, be against the law of one? Would it polarize you?
Great question. The questioner asks if it's a mistake and about polarization. Ra gives a classic law of one answer. There are no mistakes under the law of one.
So no simple yes or no.
No. Ra says he interprets the law but doesn't give specific advice on actions. He basically tells the questioner to consider the polarizing effects himself. It puts the responsibility back on the individual to discern the consequences of their intent and actions.
Right. Personal responsibility and discernment are always key. Okay, let's shift now to a topic I know resonates with a lot of people. Wanderers.
Yes, a major concept. The questioner asks who they are, where they come from.
And Ra's answer?
It's beautiful. He uses this analogy. Think of all the grains of sand on all the shores. That's like the sources of intelligent infinity. Wanderers come from social memory complexes, entire civilizations, basically, that have fully realized their desire is service to others.
Service to others.
And because of that desire, they hear the call for aid from places like Earth. Ra calls them the brothers and sisters of sorrow. They come from everywhere in creation, drawn by that need to serve.
Brothers and sisters of sorrow. That's quite poignant. How many are here now, according to Ra?
He gives an approximate number around 65 million.
65 million. Wow. Why so many right now?
Ra says it's due to a really intensive need at this time to help lighten the overall planetary vibration and to assist with the harvest process. It's a critical time.
That sheer number speaks volumes about the significance of this era. Where do most of them come from, density-wise?
Interestingly, Ra says very few are fourth density wanderers. The largest number are actually sixth densities.
Sixth density, that's quite advanced. Why them specifically?
Ra suggests the desire to undertake such a mission, coming back into the confusion of third density, requires immense purity of mind and also, well, he calls it either foolhardiness or bravery.
Foolhardiness or bravery, I can see that. It sounds incredibly challenging. What's the biggest risk for them?
The main danger is forgetting. Forgetting who they are, why they came, and getting tangled up in the karmic cycles here.
Forgetting their mission. How would that happen? How do they get karmically involved?
Ra gives a straightforward example by acting in a consciously unloving way towards other people here. That creates karmic ties, regardless of their origin.
So the basic rules of interaction still apply, very strongly. What about physical well-being? Do wanderers struggle physically being here?
The questioner asks this, and Ra says, generally, yes. The huge difference in vibration between their home density and third density often causes problems.
Like what kind of problems?
Things like a deep feeling of alienation, not fitting in. Sometimes personality disorders can develop as a reaction to the planetary vibes. And physical stuff, too, like allergies, are mentioned as signs of the body complex having trouble adjusting.
That sounds tough.
Yeah.
Real sacrifice. So what's the best way for a wanderer, or anyone really, to heal these kinds of issues?
This leads to the last really detailed answer in the session, and it's profound. Ra says healing comes from within through realizing the intelligent infinity that resides inside you.
Realizing your own infinite nature.
Exactly. But, he notes, this realization can be blocked if someone isn't perfectly balanced. Healing involves consciously knowing the spiritual nature of reality and actively pouring that awareness into the mind, body, and spirit.
Consciously directing that understanding inwards.
Yeah.
Ra uses the instrument, Carla, as an example, doesn't
He does. He points out a blockage in her indigo ray, the pineal center, which receives intelligent energy. At the same time, her green ray, the heart center, is overly open because she wants so badly to serve.
Interesting imbalance. Any other blockages?
Violet ray was fine, others clear. But the key blockage for her, Ross says, was a belief in her own unworthiness. That belief was literally hindering the flow of intelligent energy.
Believing she wasn't worthy. And the solution for her.
Ra recommended action. Specifically, actions that put into practice a peaceful understanding and humility, realizing that she is one with the Creator and therefore inherently perfect, letting that truth sink in.
So embodying the understanding,
Yeah.
not just thinking it.
Right. And the general principle Ra gives is that all ill health involves some kind of energy center blockage. The mind, body, spirit's own intelligence needs to be alerted either by yourself or maybe by another healer to address the blockage and restore flow.
It connects everything, mind, body, spirit, energy centers. Powerful stuff. Then comes a very personal question, right?
Yes. The questioner asks if he, Don, Jim, and Carla, the three people there, are wanderers.
And the answer?
Ra confirms it. After scanning them, he says yes. Each one present is a wanderer here on a mission. Must have been quite a moment for them.
I can only imagine. A direct confirmation of their path. And the session wraps up with something quite practical.
It does. The questioner asks if there's anything they can do to make the instrument more comfortable. Ra asks them to just slightly realign the objects with the symbols they used. They were off by about a degree or so.
Just a tiny adjustment.
Tiny, yeah. Ra says it wasn't critical for just one session, but long-term misalignment could eventually impair the contact. A little reminder about the importance of details, even in this profound work.
Wow, what a session. So wrapping up our deep dive into session 12, we've really covered some incredible ground, the conditions for contact, the whole dynamic between the Confederation and Orion.
The nature of their interactions, the quarantine, the reasons for UFO sightings, yeah. And then the wanderers, their origins, purpose, challenges.
And finally, those core principles of healing, connecting our physical state to our energetic and spiritual balance, and that deep-seated belief in unworthiness being such a block. It truly earns its name, the law of wisdom.
It really does. You see the complexities, the interplay of free will, polarity, density, and the underlying unity of the law of one weaving through all these topics. It's intricate.
It leaves you with so much to think about. For everyone listening, maybe consider, does the idea of wanderers resonate with you personally? Can you perhaps see subtle influences, positive or negative, playing out around you? How do these principles of attunement, discernment, and self-healing apply to your own journey?
Yeah, and maybe think about how we cultivate that inner clarity Ross speaks of, that attunement to love and light in the middle of our often busy third density lives. That seems like a key challenge, doesn't it?
It really does. Namaste. I am you, and you are me. We hope this exploration sparks further curiosity. Keep diving into the material, keep asking questions, and share what you discover.